Ew, was anybody else freaked out with Patrice and Alonzo giving early Krishan and Blueface vibes? Y'all, let's get into episode 2 of Ready to Love Dallas Fort Worth. Patrice, not you being a pick me. Hey, question crew, welcome back. And to everyone just joining us for the first time, welcome. Stay and have a good time. Don't forget to like the video at the beginning, just so we can get into it and you won't forget, especially if you like the content. Anyway, let's get into this episode of Radio Love, episode 2, y'all. So, we met the last half of the realty last week, and, we meeting the other brokers this week. And so it's an all new 10, y'all. And first comes sliding in Miss Vanessa. Miss Vanessa is a flight attendant. She, used to have a white husband, honey. She walked in like a gazelle, talking about how, she needs somebody new now that she's divorced. She's no longer married to her husband. She really wants somebody who is on her same level and also understands her cultural differences. Miss Honey has turned in from, all lives matter to revolutionary, and we love to see it. So Vanessa strolling in, beautiful locks. We love to see it. And I think in general, we love to see like this shakeup of the women. It was a little bit better, a little bit more updated, less in the early 2000s, if you ask me. Um, Moving into Vanessa showing up because she's the first one on site. She heads up to the hotel that they're all meeting at. So instead of going to like the Airbnb, it looks like they're going to be at this hotel rooftop. And in walks Alonzo. When Alonzo walked in, I just knew I was going to see a mess. Y'all know when they be saying online, like, show us two things that give off the same energy. Why Alonzo strolled and gave me that guy that's been going viral for walking through this mall talking about, what would you do if I walk past you? That's the entire energy. It was straight fuckery. Anyway, Alonzo walks in, like that man from Macy's turning to the back to try to give us a stroll, honey. He wants to let us know he got his locks and a ribbon. He is ready to join and meet somebody. I don't know. It gave early buffoonery to me, but either way, he is the second person to arrive, and Vanessa is not completely mad. He's tall. He looks like a nice looking guy. And Alonzo introduces to remind us that he is different. Honey, if it's one thing men going to try to do every single time and try to act like they're avant-garde. So Alonzo lets it be known that, he's not like the other men on the show. He's different in the way that he leads his life. He likes to rollerblade. He wears unique, wacky colors. He just wants y'all to know that he ain't the same as these other men. And he's looking for somebody else that gets his different side. And, so far, he's not a bad looking guy. Let's hope the other men fit the eye candy range. I'm a little bit more impressed with this first bunch than the other half. Y'all let me know how y'all feel. Anyway, Norks and Miss Patrice, honey. And Patrice is another tall goddess. I love to see it as a tall person. I understand and vibe. And I love to see other tall women taking center stage. So Patrice arrives on the scene and, she's letting us know, like, look, she is looking for her love, but she's also looking for a man who is tall. A lot of times she feels like, people look past tall women and she's just not here for it. Patrice lets us know she's in tech, honey. Or at least a recruiter in it. This is the thing about it that I never understand people in tech. When you say you in tech, I know plenty of people in tech. I normally don't consider people who do recruiting to be in tech. Like, you technically work in the tech industry, but I don't consider you to be quote unquote in tech if you're just recruiting people for the jobs in tech. Either way, honey, Miss Patrice is doing her thing. She was like a black Barbie dressed in Gavari, honey. Looks fantastic. And she's letting it be known that, she's here to have a good time, and she's here to meet somebody that she can connect with on her level. She feels like she mostly meets men at work or things like that, and it just hasn't really vibed for her. When they're sitting down to have a conversation, they go over what each person does, and they're having a conversation, and Patrice mentions that she's in tech, and then Vanessa mentions that she's a flight attendant. And just the vibe off of that was very, very weird. Did y'all notice how Patrice low-key tried to ask Vanessa if she can get her the buddy pass? I was like, damn, early on. Here's the thing. I don't even know if Southwest still does that anymore. Y'all let me know down in the comments. But I don't think it was shade, but it was one of those things where, like, I don't know if she felt like the job was lesser. I don't know. It just was one of those things that threw me off a little bit. But both women are beautiful, and definitely just a different energy. And by the way, take notes. This is how you do feathers. And so we're just continuing with all the greetings. Everybody's just showing up. And I'm not the only person impressed by this other half of women. I just feel like everybody here felt grown and sexy. And our friend Chaz agrees. So Chaz walks in and, immediately sits down. He's impressed by the beauty of all the women. The ladies here definitely gave just more grown and sexy. Not that the women before weren't attractive, but just I felt like there was just a vibe here that felt more grown, more sophisticated, just more fine and fabulous. And Chaz walks in and he says, y'all look like In Vogue. He might have said TLC. I don't know. It was some girl group, honey. It could have been the Supremes. But either way, he is here for all of the Black beauty and he just wants to let them know that they are an array of sunshine to him. And like I said, everybody's giving fine, fit, grown, fabulous. We have different women coming in, having a seat and sitting down and chatting because it kind of feels a little bit weird. Again, they're all gathering on this hotel rooftop by this large pool because that's where they're going to have their mixer. And it's definitely a different vibe than what we got before. Now, I don't think it's more sexy because that pool was extremely large for the amount of space that they had surrounding it. But it feels more apropos than them sitting by that Dollar Tree table, driving up and then walking across that bridge. Why did one meetup give civil rights movement and this one gave something different? I don't understand because they still got the same champagne and fruit as before. Anyway, let's continue with the invites. Like I said, people just keep showing up more and more. And every single woman that showed up, I feel like was very beautiful. Maya walks in and Miss Maya is saying she is ready to find her king, honey. She has kissed enough frogs. She's ready to settle down. And Maya is also the youngest in the bunch. Maya is, I believe, 30 years old. So I believe Alonzo is our youngest guy at 31. I think that might be LaRon from last episode. And Maya's the youngest woman here. And Maya said, it's time for her to find somebody new. She sits down, starts having conversation with the men. She talks to Alonzo, that's the one with the locks, and says how, she really is here to find love and not just to find something to do. And Alonzo asked her, like, how did her last relationship go? And she said, child, it could have been a movie. And immediately he goes, oh, you must be dangerous. And it's like, sir, why is it assumed that she is the one with the issues? Why is it assumed simply because she said her last, romantic situation was a movie that it's all of a sudden that she has problems? Honestly, it could mean a bunch of different things. And it also reminds you that Alonzo is going to be the problematic one this season. So, in arrival of all the folks that's showing up, honey, because at this point it just feels like it's a ticket take. Everybody's just showing up at different times. They're all gathering at this pool top and getting this free fruit. And so we're introduced to Jonathan, who is tall, dark. I consider him to be handsome, but I feel like he knows it, and so that makes him a little less attractive. And we're also introduced to the very sophisticated, beautiful Leigh Allen, or I want to say Leigh Ellen. I'm not really sure, but she's one of the older women in the group, stunning, and she carries herself very, very well. All the ladies actually do for the most part. And so Jonathan and her have a seat. He's mesmerized by her beauty when she walks in, as so many of the other women. And he sits down. They have this conversation. He wants her to let him know he has a different type of job. He ain't out here like these other men, honey. He's not a plumber. He's not a doctor. He's not a lawyer. He's not a teacher. He is a recycle plant. I believe he owns like a recycling plant. And so he wants to let her know that that's his situation. He's Nigerian. I believe he's in the fraternity because I can see the brand on his arm. Either way, Jonathan is like interesting. He's a little bit of a breath of fresh air, but he's also giving a little bit of arrogance. Y'all let me know how y'all felt about his energy. Leon's giving, fresh, sophisticated, looking for somebody to spend some time, to spend a life with, rather. She's got her stuff together. She seems to be giving off vibes that is attractive to all of the men because she was certainly in their top later on in the episode. Jonathan puts her in the fine and fly category. And I don't know, some of his conversation throughout the time talking with both her and the other women, it reminds you again that it is really slim pickings here. They vibe on the fact that they both have familial origins in Africa. Specifically, he's Nigerian and her family's from Sierra Leone. And he's completely mesmerized by her. She's a breath of fresh air to him, and they have great conversation. But again, I'm just not feeling his vibe. So, of course, Tommy comes in with his booming voice and announcement to have everybody gather around. And, Tommy lets them know, like, yes, this is a different vibe from the other mixers. Normally, y'all not at the big house. It's like, sir, we don't always love them Airbnbs. It'd be questionable about who be scouting them location. And I guess they didn't want to pay a large rent twice, so they just went with the free hotel situation. And per usual, Ready to Love, the budget won't hold because they don't really give them no real food. They still just give them fruit and drinks and them champagne flutes. Tommy lets everybody know that one of the women will be eliminated tonight. So this is not just for play. Yes, y'all are here to meet each other. Yes, y'all are here to find out more about each other and see who else is here. But one, this is only one half of the people. And two, you will be eliminating a woman tonight. So it's important that the women and men get to know each other seriously because somebody got to go home. He says that in love and in life, power is not always equal, including in this process. And so that gives an added incentive for people to really get serious about the conversation they're having and not just have these surface level, oh, you're pretty, oh, you're handsome conversations. What do you do for a living? I mean, it was giving early bar vibes, and I think he wanted them to get a bit deeper. Speaking of deeper, let's go a little bit into, like we did in the last panel. Let's left side, right side this thing. Let's look at what some people had on for the evening. So again, I personally feel like this group just came with it when it came, especially the women, and when it came to the sophistication and the fly grownness of their energy and their attire. I thought Patrice looked beautiful in that blue. It complemented her very well. Her hair looked amazing, well accessorized. Patrice looked great too, aka Krishan Sr. I feel like, she looked great. She was in shape. She looked fantastic. The dress was very cute. Love the blonde locks, how she did have them styled. It was very unique. I know she has like a lot of tattoos on her, I believe her right side. And I think she even has like a full sleeve and even down to her leg. But she still, I think, dressed great for the look. Because sometimes when you have tattoos and you put on a lot of other stuff too, it could just look really crowded. And because she does have a full sleeve on the side of her body and her leg, I think the way that she accented her jewelry really helped to not overdo it, especially because she kept most of it to her arms. Yellen looked beautiful. Love the dress. Would have wanted the split on her dress to be a little bit lower, just because there's already a lot of cleavage showing. Her arms are out. I feel like she didn't need the high split as well, especially because it appeared to be like even though it was sunny, it was a windy day, so it kind of felt like the dress was a bit high. But we love a good leg, and she did look beautiful, and the dress looked great on her. And olive can sometimes wash out anybody's skin tone. I don't care who it was, but it looked great on her. Jonathan, I didn't care for the polo with the chain. I don't know how y'all felt about that, but I just didn't love it. It gave very much how you would dress if you're in high school and you don't have dress attire. And you don't, so you like, hey, this is what I got in my closet, and you throw it on because they tell you got to dress up for like Wednesday for like career day. That's what his outfit gave to me. I didn't love that for a meetup. It just felt too casual. I wasn't feeling it. Lamar looked good in the sense that he was dressed appropriately for the meetup. I think the Hawaii 5 shirt, I don't know. I wasn't really feeling that completely. His glasses give me Ronnie from Kanan. His visual overall. But I feel like the ladies really worked it better out than the men did in this situation. Now, the right side of the room was giving everything that I thought was needed to be given. Again, the women looked fantastic. Not anybody was off at any point. So we got Rashana over here with the pink and the beautiful gold earrings. I'm not really always a fan of blonde hair. I don't know what it is. It's not really my vibe, but it looks beautiful on many of us in all of our skin tones. And Rashana got the right color for her skin tone that I think really complimented her. The makeup looked great. She's a girl's girl, as we found out later on. She mentioned to us several times, and a girly girl. So she's into that because she's a salon owner. So she looked fantastic. The dress looked great on her, the proportions, everything. Alonzo, it's giving young history teacher, but it still works to a certain degree because it is still a casual mixer vibe. It works in his look. It wasn't too overdone. His hair is neat. He's well groomed, so it worked out fine. I thought Vanessa looked beautiful. I thought her outfit really complimented her body shape and her height. I loved her locks. They looked gorgeous, and they were so well done in the fold and everything like that. It just was a really pretty look on her, and it really helped because she kind of basically had an updo. So I love that the earrings accented all of that, makeup on point. Honestly, there was really nobody bad in the group. Next up, we have Maya. Miss Maya looked fantastic as well. She just looked beautiful, beautiful dress, complemented her skin tone very well because they're still in a hot city. And that neon just looked great on her, and simplistic hair, makeup, nothing overdone. And last, Mr. Chaz. I love the outfit. I love the white pants. I love the color of the shirt. hair well done. It was just a nice vibe. Nobody looked out of place here. So, I felt the brokerage looked better than the realtors. I was loving it. So here's the thing. The only thing I don't like about whenever Tommy talks to the group and he starts having conversation about whether or not somebody's going to go home, I feel like the thirst vibes go up because people want to be in the competition and they don't want to be eliminated because then they won't be a part of the show. The downside about it is, however, then you get a lot of inauthenticity and people like vying for a spot. And I feel like that's what happened when we met Lamar. Honey, Lamar already looked like he going to be a character. As soon as I saw him slither in there, I was like, it's about to be some ruckusness and some ridiculousness going on with him. And Rashana and Vanessa are sitting with him, and it's just giving slimy. It's giving lizard energy, and them tinted glasses ain't helping. Um, they are definitely both grown, and his energy was that of a little definite immaturity. I feel like this is the prettiest amount of women he ever been around, and it shows. What I did not love in this moment is because of the pressure, I guess. Rashana, I feel like, was a little bit more open than she probably would have been because he starts to ask the women how they feel about nudity and on first dates and how open they are and are they spontaneous. And normally, when you hear the word spontaneous, if it's in the right text or context of a sentence, you know it means something different. But when you hear a man say that off the cuff where he has no idea about you, like he doesn't know if you're adventurous or love to travel or do anything that's wild or different sports, you kind of know he's talking more on the sexual side. And so that's where they first got that vibe from. Vanessa picked it up right away and said, no, I'm not spontaneous. But Rashana says, it depends. And then he goes, okay, so what if I said on a, we were hanging out and I said, like, why don't we go skinny dipping? And she was like, it depends. And I feel like that felt like she was trying to stick around. So she was saying anything to appease him because she knew that they had to go home. And I hated that because I do genuinely like her attitude. And I think she was one of my favorite people from after watching this episode so far. But Vanessa stuck to her guns and was like, I'm not spontaneous at all. I don't do none of that. I'm not interested. Like, basically, look, Lamar, whatever you trying to sell, we ain't doing it. But the new beach and all, Vanessa gave me level-headed grown, even if she was a little uncomfortable in her vibe, because we find out later on she was. I felt like Rashana kind of bended a little bit too much to the will of that because were we really attracted to Lamar? Let's be honest. So like I said, the thirst level conversations continue and we go on to Maya and Jonathan and they're having the most base level conversation at the bar. It's not even worth mentioning. Of course, Maya says she likes them tall, dark, handsome, and chivalrous. And Jonathan apparently says that he learned his chivalry from TV. He said that he didn't grow up, being around a person like a man in his life or anything that taught him how to be chivalrous, how to be a gentleman. And so he learned that from shows like Martin and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I was like, whatever that means, honey. Because I don't know that I felt like Martin was chivalrous, but that's where he got it from. So I guess it's going to be jackassery because I don't know what Martin to me never gave chivalry. And I guess Fresh Prince, unless you use Uncle Phil, I don't see it there either. But he apparently learned how to be a gentleman from sitcoms. And Maya's like, okay, I can appreciate that he's trying to, show another side of himself, but I wasn't impressed. Finally, the mixer continues and we go from one interesting group to another. And somebody I did miss last week was Miss Patrice. Miss Patrice owns a trucking company, or a transportation company. And she was somebody I missed in the real last week when we showed everybody that was going to be on the show. And so the basic question I have for the lady in red, aka Krishan Senior, is what was the need to introduce herself and let us know that she owns a transportation company and she transports all the celebrities in the city? Girl, who asked this question? Nobody. The other question is your transportation company just for people who are famous? Because if you just own a transportation company and anybody can rent from you, anybody can use it. Because I would think that if you want to make a profit, that's what you would be doing. Why do we need to know the celebrities that sometimes in your cars? It already gave that she's going to annoy me. It just already just having to feel the need to let us know about the celebrity situation it just already annoyed me and made me go off. So what did make me laugh, however, was Chaz, who was in the group, says he drives the city bus as a joke. He's like, oh, okay, because she said it so extra when the other women were trying to introduce their situation. She really doesn't give the other women a chance to get a word in edgewise. And Chaz was trying to lighten the mood. And so Vanessa ends up asking him seriously because he's in a group with Patrice, Vanessa, and I believe Maya. And Vanessa ends up asking him, what do you do seriously? And he says, oh, seriously, he works in data analytics and in senior management. And She asked him, like, hey, is that something you always wanted to do? And, he said he's always loved inventing things even as a kid. I don't think anybody has a dream of ever working in data analytics, but um, that was his answer. And sure enough, as soon as he said that, here come Krishan Sr., honey. I invented something. It was weird. It was just weird when you have to always make yourself the center of attention. So she goes, she invented a toy. And they're like, okay, so now the conversation is back to you. We know less about him than we did before. And she feels the need to let them know that she invented something. It was a toy. It was a toy that she invented before she became celibate. And so the girl's like, oh, was it like the rose or one of those things? Because we think, you candy coated nights, honey. We think you got like a little sweet toy that the ladies can use. Like Candy got the peach, they got the rose, they got the elephant, all the different stuff. She goes, no, it's a $30,000 machine that lets you do 200 kegels in 1 minute. Girl, who wanted or needed to hear this? We do not care. And it was just like, okay, nobody's paying 30K for the machine. And again, it's giving, I need to be seen, I need to be validated, and not in the way that everybody does, but just in a way of desperation to always be the center of attention. I wanted to clap for Patrice because she's one of the older women in the group and she looks amazing, but the insecurity is super loud. Child, when I tell you the mixer was just giving the most mixiest thing ever, it was honestly super boring. This episode wasn't bad. Like, I'm glad we got to be introduced to everybody individually, and we have to know these people for the purpose of the show. But when I tell you, I'm not really sure I love this divide up as much as I appreciated that we kind of got a little bit more personalized. But honestly, the mixer was boring. Anyway, Zoe and his locks head over to Maya and Vanessa, who are sitting on the couch having a conversation. And they said that they were talking about relationships when he walked up. They seem to just be having like a little bit of girl, one-on-one time having this chat. They don't seem too enthused that he's the one that showed up to kind of part the Red Sea and sit with them. But that's okay. He's like, cool, I could join in because they're really supposed to be getting to know each other. And I guess he feel like kill two birds with one stone. Let me sit with Vanessa and Maya, have a little conversation because we got to eliminate these ladies in a few. So they sit down, and when I tell you it was like two lumps on a log, they seemed so unenthused about him being in the middle of the conversation. And so he's like, okay, y'all are talking about relationships, like, hit me with some questions, or what y'all discussing. And they just sit there so annoyed by him and his presence. And so it was so disturbing to watch because you could hear crickets. So he says, well, let me be the person to say something first. So he says, look, how was his, what was your last relationship like? Like, let's open up the dialogue. And he says, well, his last relationship was like a situationship because his ex didn't like the fact that he was too friendly and she wasn't feeling that. When I tell you, even that didn't wake anybody up. And so Maya excuses herself in the middle of that little story to say, let me go get something just to drink. So he's sitting there talking with Vanessa. When I tell you she felt trapped, it was like it was so sad to see as it was going down because you couldn't know Vanessa really just wanted to get out of there. I don't know what it was about Alonzo, aka Zoe's vibe, but they just were not feeling him. So Vanessa's like, oh, I'm gonna see if I can get something from the bartender. He's like, oh, so you try to leave? You trying to move that way? So she's like, no. She said, I'm fine. Let me tell you something, lady. In situations like this, the bathroom works every time. It never fails. Just tell somebody you got to go to the bathroom and get yourself on out of there. Don't get trapped like Vanessa. So we continue along these, mix of conversations. Chaz and Rashana, that's your lady in the blonde hair with the pink dress on, have a chit chat. And Chaz and Rashana, I like the vibes I got from these two. This felt like the first honest, real, authentic connection of the group so far. And we damn near over the end of the episode. And Chaz says he likes natural women and he thinks that, all the women there are very beautiful. He gets very personal with Rashana, and Rashana's, really happy that she's having a grown conversation. He was really the only person I felt like gave grown vibes. What was interesting was Rashana says, like, when he said natural woman, she doesn't know how she'll fit in because, she wears different wigs. She owns her own hair salon. She's a cosmetologist by trade, honey. So she's used to changing up her look all the time. She's very much a girly girl, though. She said she gets her hair and her nails done consistently. She likes dresses. She likes all of the fun, frilly things. And I don't think he was saying, when he was saying natural, I don't know that he was saying that he wanted somebody who was natural with no wigs. I think he just doesn't want like the extremeness. I don't think he has a problem with her changing hair because he was very attracted to her and he made it known. Anyway, they have a conversation and we find out that Rashana has two boys. And she's a single parent. Um, and we end up finding out that Chaz wants children, but he's also had a child. So this was something that I thought was really beautiful. And again, one of the best conversations of the night, because he ends up opening up about the fact that he did have a son, but that the son died at 6 months. And he just talks about how that was such a heartbreak for him and he didn't know if he wanted kids again, but now he feels like he does. And he said, I wonder what happened to the mother, because he didn't really get too deep into that story, but you could tell he's very heartbroken by the loss of his child. And it happened so briefly. I can't even imagine, the child being born and then not being alive 6 months later is just heartbreaking. And so I love that they touched on the intimacy of this moment and this vulnerable moment that we don't often get to see from men. When they talk about loss and miscarriages, oftentimes we hear about the mother's pain and the mother's loss, because obviously it is significant, you carrying that life inside of you. But we don't often touch down to see how men feel about loss, and specifically the loss of a child that has either been, miscarried, or a child who has died young. We don't always tap into the father side of things. And so it was nice to see someone articulate their feelings in the way that Rashana took that information in so respectfully and so lovingly. It was just a nice moment to see from the nonsense that had been going on prior to this. It clearly broke him up, and it's something that she thinks that she likes about him is the fact that he was able to express himself in that vulnerable moment, as well as the fact that he um, is now open to the idea of having more children. We move on to Alonzo and Patrice, honey. And when I tell you, this is when all of the I Want to Be the President of the Pygmies came out on Miss Patrice. I just expected more from her. I think because she tried to push herself so assertively as being this confident, woman, business owner, but it just gives, I'm just sad to see the pick me vibes. Alonzo is significantly younger than her. He's 31. She's in her 40s. It gives me that she wants to be like a mama type figure to him. And it was very cringy to watch. I don't know. Y'all let me know if y'all felt the same way. Alonzo connects with Patrice and it is a mess, honey. So in that conversation, she's talking about basically all the things that, she would do in a relationship to a certain degree, and, who she is and how she is. And it gives, I want to be your sugar mama. And Zoe lets it be known that he likes an older, independent woman, basically a sugar mama. And the way she was selling herself and the way he was picking it up, it was, I'm looking for a sponsor. When I tell you Krishan 2.0 just was really disturbing to watch her talk with this man. You could see he was eating all of it up because he's basically looking like how he gonna drive her Honda when she's not around. That's what it was giving. And the fact that she was catering to that, it was cringeworthy. Jonathan connects with Rashana, who we just saw had this great moment with Chaz, and they have not such a great moment. They connect, and for him, it's not a love connection. He feels more friendship from her. And you know what? That's kind of fine. Honestly, I don't see that much depth with him, but he wants to come across as deep. And, he says it's not a love connection based on some of the energy she has. It gives a little too strong for him, and he wants a little bit more softness. It honestly, I could care less. Tommy shows up at the rooftop after taking a nap in his room, honey, and he's letting them know that he's here to bring games forth. Just like the last group, he wants them to play a little game to get a little bit more, energy going, because right now, honestly, it's boring, and he wants to shake it up. So he comes down to help them play a game called Good on Paper. And he talks about how when you're online, you see people's profiles, they look great online and their profiles look great, but is that really who the person is? And if you've been listening to the people that you've been talking to over the last couple of hours, you should know a little bit more about them past just the surface level. So he did with the last group, but he's going to ask a question, and people who have been listening and do know the answers to this can give, right answers. Pretty much the same thing to the ladies. And this time they have a little horseshoe they're showing and not that little Crown Royal bag piece that they had before. Better, better, better. Some of the questions are really cute and fun, like, who has, a degree in so-and-so, or who had this, or this. For the most part, Maya and Leah Allen are winning, and are the last two standing for the very last question. And they get to the last question, and the last question is, who learned how to romance and get with people from sitcoms, basically from Martin and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but is now living single. And the ladies think tough and hard. Jonathan, as we know, is the one that stated that earlier. And Maya is the one that remembers. And so she wins and is safe from elimination, because part of this game is the fact that they get safe from elimination if they win the game. And so we move forward because the night is getting close to an end, and these fellas have to make a decision about who's going to stay. So as the sun goes down and these women are continuing to tap dance, we have a connection between Vanessa and Chaz. Now, Chaz is who I'm going to call him grown and sexy right now, because Chaz is cute. And he's the only one giving grown vibes and giving mature vibes. There's a sense of something maybe a little bit that we're going to find out from the surface, but right now I like him the most, and he's the least irritating of the men. And Vanessa is our flight attendant who, there's a little level of insecurity, anxiety there, but for the most part, she's also very fly. She's also very mature. She's the one that's been previously married, and she's talked to almost everybody there and given them some type of respect and time, even if they didn't deserve it. Shout out to Lamar and to Alonso. So she meets up with Chaz, and they have a very refreshing and good conversation again. So Chaz is vibing with the ladies, honey. And they have a very cute connection. They talk about God. They talk about, life and different choices. And Chaz is really impressed by her because they've had more than a surface level conversation. And that's what he was there for. And that's what Vanessa was there for. And she really enjoys him, but she is meeting him at the end of the night. But the fact that they went past aesthetics and sex and talked more about life is intriguing to both of them. And you can tell that there's a connection. Last week, see Jonathan and Krishan Senior have a conversation, and you could tell at that point he was just trying to eliminate her through conversation. He wasn't really listening to what she had to say. He kept asking things over again that he shouldn't have had to ask over again, but it was because he was just figuring out whether or not he should eliminate her, because he's just at the end of the night, he's just trying to figure out who he have to send home. Tommy interrupts to ask the men to go to the lounge so that they can make a final decision. And at that same time, the ladies kind of connect by the poolside and have their conversation about who they're kind of intrigued by. He sits down with the guys. The guys go over their different folks. Almost every guy likes Lee Allen. She's kind of the girl of the night for them. They kind of all are intrigued by her. They think she's grown and sexy. They think she's a boss. They think that she is refreshing and beautiful. Most of them, like a lot of the other women. However, Rashana comes up once or twice as being somebody who they consider to be a little bit of a homegirl. And I apologize. It was Jonathan meeting with Patricia, the tech girl. That's who he has the connection with. And you could tell he just doesn't have a connection with her. Also, Patricia kind of seems a little closed off. But back to the men's lounge. So they also bring up the fact that they like Rashana, but a little bit, she gives homegirl vibes a bit, and they don't know if that's something that they're going to be interested in full term. They all like Maya as well. She's one that comes up in the circle that all the men are really feeling and want to see that they can get to know on a different level. Although Alonzo says that Maya did not stick around for their conversation, so he don't even know if she's into him. They like Vanessa, but they also don't know if Vanessa's been enough of an attention grabber in terms of she's a little bit more laid back. Although she's been asking questions, there's nothing that jumps off the page about her. And they're not sure if she's somebody that they can see long-term in the running. They all also state that they're not really feeling Patricia. She's beautiful. Miss Tech Girl, Miss Chocolate Barbie is very closed off. They feel like she's very, she's a little bit too hard to break as far as the shell is concerned. Most of the men echo that there is a little bit of a wall up. And she admitted that in her conversation prior to the lounge discussion with the men when she was talking with Jonathan about how, she's just been in a lot of relationships where, she's been hurt and different things like that. So she feels like she's healed and done the work, but she also just feels like she does have her guard up a bit. I don't think she recognizes that, but he recognizes that in having conversation with her. And we kind of recognize that too, as she's talking longer and longer with him. And for them, the guys are like, look, this is just a mixer. We're supposed to be here ready to love. Come in here with their wall up. And even if it's a little bit there, it just doesn't make for a great opener. And so many of them have reservations. The ladies sort of sit around and talk about who they're attracted to and who they're not attracted to. I can't even remember that conversation because honestly, most of these men were a dud for me, but Chaz and maybe one other person. So we fast forward to the elimination round. And of course, Tommy brings out the women that are not in the top. And he talks to Rashana, he brings out Vanessa, and he brings out Patricia. So he tells Rashana the same thing. Hey, you got to have more of an impact. Your impact is there, but you got to give less of a friend vibe. The men want to get to know you on more than just a friend. And so she hears that and she goes back in line because she's not one of the two that is up for final elimination. He then has Vanessa and Patricia left. And so Patricia's hoping, she goes to the green screen and tells us she's hoping because she feels like she's done the work, that the men can see that she's somebody who is ready to love. Vanessa is nervous because she has been feeling anxiety from the beginning and she wasn't sure she wanted to do the process, but she's here now. She's hoping that she gets more time because nobody likes being eliminated from the first round. And honestly, she feels like she doesn't know if she gave as much as she could give. Ultimately, Tommy says that Patricia is the one not ready to love. The men just felt like she had too much of a wall up and that she needed to maybe bring down just a bit more than bricks for them to get to know her. All is all, the episode ends. Patricia has a very sensitive moment because she said that she feels like she's done the work and she actually asked to be off camera for a minute. Of course, they keep filming her because, heartless. And basically stating that she feels like she's done the work and that she didn't realize she had that much of a wall up. And I want to say this. I feel like sometimes how we see ourselves isn't the same once we get out in the public and start dating people. Even if you feel like you've healed and done the work, it isn't until you start talking with people and they start connecting with you as to whether or not you've actually healed, because they'll start to see that you won't necessarily come across when you already have your guard up. And I think the fact that so many men experienced her that way, whether or not we like these guys, that so many of them echoed the same thing. There is some sort of vibe she's giving off that makes them feel like she's not completely connected to the process in an honest way. And I hope that she works through that because she seems like a beautiful girl that has a lot to offer. And she will find her king, but she definitely has to maybe just take off a little bit, break down a little bit more of her wall so that he can see her too. Y'all let me know what you think of the episode. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.